Hello, darling. I know I had sworn it would never happen again, but it did. I waited way too long for this new books video, so if it were me, I would have something like, 20 books to review, but I've just decided that I'm going to do books video more often and have them shorter than lately. So I just have something like probably 10 to go through right now, and I might as well just get started. The first I want to talk to you about is Mr. Dixon Disappears. I read this in Italian. It's the second book of the Israel Armstrong saga by Ian Sansom. You know how I always try to be as strict as possible in these videos, so I'm gonna try and be strict with this one too. And I have to be honest, looking back at the first one, you realize that the plot is sort of paper thin. And the reason why he gets away with it is the nothing less than humorous scenes that the book is composed of. In this second book, the plot isn't exactly any thicker. And yes, it's still funny, but it's not great. Let's just, the mystery unfolds from the fact that Israel is mistakenly arrested for department store theft and the disappearance of its owner, Mr. Dixon, which isn't exactly unheard of, right? And again, when you're done with the book, you look back and somehow the crime solving feels far-fetched. The Woody Allen-ish feel that Israel has, it made sense in the first one because, you know, he was moving from London to Tundrum and he didn't know anyone. He had to find his place in the village and everything. But this time around, it doesn't stand anymore as an excuse. I mean, it's still funny, but it's not as convincing as the first. And the first itself wasn't that convincing. With this said, if you actually loved or even liked the first one, chances are you're gonna love or like this one too. Besides, it doesn't really make any sense, you know, if you've read the first one of a trilogy, because so far it's a trilogy, you know, you really shouldn't stop midway. The second book I want to talk to you about is The Poe Shadow by Matthew Pearl, and apparently he's also the author of The Dante Club, which I haven't read. This is interesting, especially if you're a Poe fan, just like myself. Everything starts on October the 3rd, 1849. And I like it because it's my birthday. Baltimore sees the last hectic and erratic days of Edgar Allan Poe, and once he's gone, this idealistic attorney named Clark feels obsessed with the need to rescue Poe's reputation. I mean, rumors that have the writer dead for excessive drinking. And in this search of redemption for Edgar Allan Poe, he finds Dupont, which is actually the real Dupont. And it's interesting because Dupont is the shadow of the investigator he used to be. So ahead of solving Poe's mystery, Clark has to help Dupont find himself again. The good thing about this is that everything has been thoroughly researched. So it offers insights into Poe's personal life and literary career. But aside from that, I have to say the echo of a 19th century prose sometimes get really verbose. This is a very silly, teeny, tiny book, and it's not really something that you're ever going to read from top to bottom. It's the hypochondriac's pocket guide to horrible diseases you probably already have. From the same author, who is Dennis DiClaudio, you can also find The Paranoid's Pocket Guide to Mental Disorders You Can Just Feel Coming On, and The Complete Manual of Things That Might Kill You. Now, I think if you are clinically hypochondriac and or paranoid, this isn't a book I would suggest. But if you are not too scared of death and you are able to irresponsibly laugh in its face, then this is a good reading. There's this syndrome, I don't remember, where is it? Anyway, apparently men grow breasts. You get this symptoms section and it just says breasts. Oh, and you also get the pretty pictures. Look at this. Oh, I liked this one. It's Ian McEwan, The Daydreamer. This is the story of Peter Fortune. It's a young boy the author recognizes himself in. From the outside, Peter is not very talkative and not very bright boy. The truth is that in his head, all sorts of adventures take place. And this is exactly what happened in his imagination. Apparently, McEwan read this to his children. This is something that happens a lot with him. Dreams are seen as something that makes you grow, that helps you realize that in the growing process, your point of view on reality and on the world changes, and all you can do about it is accept it and maybe remember and pass it along. And this is exactly what this book does. I mean, it sometimes feels way too dreamy for me, but it's enjoyable because if you were one of those kids that used to have fantastic adventures in their head, then you definitely can relate to this one. Next is Amberville by Tim Davis. Tim Davis is actually a pseudonym for a Swedish author, and this is his or her first novel. It's set in the city of Malisen and in a world that is populated by stuffed animals. I'm not gonna lie to you, this is a difficult book. It's difficult because it's different. Again, stuffed animals. Every single inhabitant is a stuffed animal. Our main character, if I may say so, is Eric Bear, who's married to Emma Rabbit. Oh, and the funny thing about cubs is that they actually get manufactured and delivered to their parents by delivery men, and there's a cub list. And say you have, 2 giraffes, it's not guaranteed that they're going to get a giraffe as a cub. On the flip side of the cub list, there's a death list. To sum the whole story up, let's say that Eric Bear's past comes back to haunt him. You have to keep an open mind with this one because it's a crime, drama, mystery with the bits and pieces of existentialism, good versus evil sort of thing. And obviously there's the fantasy element of them being stuffed animals. What makes it a bit difficult is that he or she merges multiple points of views into one narrative. There's so many flashbacks, so many philosophical musings, a very large amount of background information, and seemingly unrelated tangents, and sometimes the risk is sort of losing the point of the story. All in all, it is quite gripping, and everything ties neatly together and eventually makes sense. But it's really unusual. It has a unique charm, and it's definitely refreshing. It's a different reading experience. I don't think I've ever talked about this before. This is Ulysses by James Joyce. It came out on February the 2nd, 1922, which would make the date 2/2/22. I don't know, I've always found it funny. This book establishes a series of parallelism between this novel itself and Homer's Odyssey, obviously. The main character being Leopold Bloom. And I also have to say this, many Joyce fans now celebrate June the 16th as Bloom's Day. Let me give you some figures, and I'm going to read them because I could never remember them for the life of me. It contains approximately 265,000 words from a lexicon of 30,030 words. You do the math. Now, one of the most important elements of this book is obviously the stream of consciousness. The stream of consciousness is a narrative way of telling a character's thoughts, and in trying to mimic the thought itself, punctuation gets lost, syntax sometimes gets lost, and it might become difficult to follow. But if you do follow, it's like a roller coaster. I mean, you are actually into someone else's head, sort of John Malkovich-y. It's divided into 18 episodes, and another great thing about this book is that there's no need, in fact, I advise you not to read it from the beginning to the end. I suggest you just jump back and forth, and I also suggest that you start from episode 13, which is Nausicaa. And I think with that single episode you will understand what is so great about the genius that was James Joyce. Oh, and on that same train of thought, I have to read to you something that Joyce himself said about the book. He said he had put in so many enigmas and puzzles that it will keep the professors busy for centuries arguing over what I meant. And to him, this would grant the book immortality. I think it worked. Last, I want to talk to you about something, again, I don't think I've mentioned before, and that's McSweeney's. I mean, I probably have mentioned it, but haven't properly talked about it. You probably know what this is. McSweeney's is a publishing house that was founded by Dave Eggers, who is the author of The Staggering Genius. It's a think tank. Right now, it publishes well-renowned authors such as, I don't know, Michael Chabon, Michelle Chabon, or Stephen King. And it also helps launching new careers. The great thing, one of the great things, again, this is something that I say a lot in this video, about McSweeney's is that it has 4 offsprings aside from the books. And that's the daily updated literature and humor site, McSweeney's Internet Tendency, the monthly magazine The Believer, the quarterly DVD magazine, and then there's the literary journal. And the latter is the one I want to talk to you about, because I'm totally in love with the quarterly journal. The great thing about this is that it doesn't look like a journal most of the times. Let me show you some of my favorites. This is number 19, the main theme being a nuclear attack. And it's this box inside of which you find, I don't know if these should be considered props, because it looks, you know, like old and burnt paper, but it's not. And then you find pictures enclosed. Oh God, look at this. These are my favorites. A letter. But it's not real. I mean, the paper is new. You can feel it. It's disorienting. It's beautiful. Number 34, I like it because of what's inside, really. It's nothing particularly special in a McSweeney way. You know, this is plastic. And then there's the 2 books inside. The packaging is not weird or bizarre in this case. Oh, this one I love. You know, you take a first glance at it and it looks like 1 book, when it's actually 4 little books on top. You know, look at the picture, and then another 4 underneath with another picture, and it totally makes sense once you put them all back together. There you go. Beautiful. And this is number 28, and then there's probably my favorite as far as packaging goes, because this is number 33, and it's the magazine issue. The magazine issue came into this plastic bag, and inside you find newspapers, and you also have the sports section. Where is it? Oh, here it is, sports section. There's also Stephen King into this one. And the magazines. I find McSweeney's nothing short than brilliant. So, once again, I hope this video won't turn out to be too long. It probably will, looking at the counter right now. I hope it was enjoyable and interesting to you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.